to the Ben-Day dots question.
Yep.
Well, before I do that, is it okay if I plug one of my own drawings?
Absolutely.
I'd like your opinion on this.
Oh, nice. Now, is that him being Robert
I'm
Stack?
also a Robert Stack fan who voiced him in the movie.
That's right. So it's Unsolved Mysteries, isn't it? The reference. See, we didn't have that over here, but I recognised it nonetheless. Excellent. So I'm trying to read it from, so it looks like I'm squinting in the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
See, I do my own comic mythos. I haven't done a lot of comics of it lately because I've been more, doing the script stuff. But it's all here in my mind. And if you wanted later, I could show you like a couple of my other drawings. But
yeah, definitely.
But what always made me curious when I looked at the original run of the original Transformers, including also other titles from Marvel and DC, back when they didn't have the glossy paper and they had, just the regular paper stock. And you'd look and you'd see all these dots so nestled, organized. What kind of technology is used to make it like that, especially in that time period? I mean, I know you can do it with computers now, but I mean, what would be the thing that artists did to get them so precise and whatever in the original runs of all these issues?
Yeah. So my understanding is there's a couple of different techniques, but a couple of people I know have seen I've seen the original setup. They would literally cut out sheets of acetate with the dots on. So you'd have a page. You'd cut out all the red bits for Optimus Prime, what have you. I think sometimes they might have painted the solid colours, and then they would overlay the other stuff on top. What they would do, a sheet say of lots of blue dot, and then your sheet of lots of yellow dots, and then they would kind of, the thing that's almost easier when you do it in the flesh or in reality is you can kind of nudge them along. You can get like your two layers and move them at the same time and go, yeah, that's the perfect brown, and then you would lock that in place. Once they've decided what goes where, they split that into 4 plates. So everything that's going to be yellow is off one thing, everything that's going to be magenta is on one, then blue, and then black, and then obviously when you print, you just do one after the other.
In your Transformers Bible, can you open a page and see if you can demonstrate? Because to the best of your ability, I mean, you were a kid when this came out, and I'm only 6 years younger than you.
So hang on, here we go. So I'll just pick Perceptor as a random. So what they would do is when they're laying out the page, they would. So I think you've got 2 types of blue here. You've got the blue on his chest is a slightly darker blue than on his arms. So when the colorist was doing it, they would basically mark out the solid areas, so red, blue, blue, and then so like his groin there, his hips, so for the darker blue, they would get a sheet of dots. Probably in this instance, I can't tell without. This is why I had to scan it in very high resolution to try and figure out what the decisions were. But with this, it's probably very, very small magenta dots that they would then cut out and place over the top. So to make it a darker blue, but not not super dark.
So is it like a traditional thing to do the darker dots at the bottom and then do the lighter dots up top, or is it not?
No, generally, my understanding is that you would start with the solid colors first, and then it doesn't really matter which order the dots go on as long as the base color is right. Although it probably works whichever way around, but I think generally, so once they split it into the 4 plates. So you've got your CM, Y, and K layers. I don't think it matters too much which order they go in, although I'd put money on black being the last one. But it's why sometimes you have, like instead of being the black outline, the color underneath, you end up occasionally having a misalignment. And I think one of I don't know if it was the same in the US or not, but like the UK comic, when you see Action Master Grimlock burst out of his chrysalis, they got the plates wrong. So I can't remember which one, but like instead of putting the blue layer, they got it wrong with the yellow. So everything that should have been blue was yellow, and everything that should have been yellow was blue, but it meant that the colors were weird and Grimlock was like green.
Okay, so a little background on what my comic is
Yep.
it's basically Dick Tracy meets Peter Pan meets Sailor Moon.
Wow, okay. That's a combination I never thought I'd hear together.
I have Asperger's, so I come up with a lot of random stuff.
That's cool.
Okay, so like for instance, it took me a lot of work to, go from being amateurish looking to be less amateurish.
The thing with all comics really, and it's the same with coloring or anything else.
Yeah.
It's just a bit like learning to play the piano, really. It's just repetition. Is doing stuff, trying it again, and you'll find probably, I don't know how long your story's going to be, but you'll probably find by the end of it, you'll be a better artist at the end than you were at the beginning, and then you'll probably find yourself wanting to go, I'm going to give that another go. And I say that as the colorist I was at the start of Regeneration 1. I can look back at it and go, I'm happy with it, but there are still parts of it where I'm there going, oh, I should have done that a bit different, because I learned stuff, 22 issues later that you wish you knew, but you only learn by just doing, like I say, effectively the same thing again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so stuff like, because I'm not an amazing artist, but I find like I can draw if I have reference. So if I've got Wheeljack, here, I can draw a good Wheeljack, although I'm very, very slow, which again is another thing which, if I have dedicated myself to drawing more when I was younger, because I made a decision fairly early on that I looked at other people's art and was like, oh, I can't do that, and decided to give up, which was a terrible mistake, because I didn't realize how all I could see was the finished artwork and thought, well, I can't do that. What I wasn't seeing was all the construction work, so like, the drawing out of the circles and the shapes to get the body shape first and that kind of stuff. And I was missing a piece of the puzzle. And it was only really when I was in my late 20s or mid 20s and I saw proper artists drawing, and I was like, oh, they're building this up from shapes. They're not just pulling this out of their head like magic. They're actually, there's technique and structure and stuff. So unfortunately, those, I don't have those skills yet. Although if I dedicate myself, I would. But yeah, so I think it's with all of it, and Brian Hitch, do you know the artist Brian Hitch? So he drew the Ultimates for Marvel, the first Ultimates. But I'm trying to think what else he's done. Absolutely tons of stuff. But he did. I think his first published work was Transformers UK, issue 190 something or 200, can't forget. But anyway, and it's interesting because it looks very good to me. And I met him at a convention, and I said, "Oh, I wish I'd known that I would actually get to meet you, because I'd have brought Transformers to get signed." And he went, "I'm really pleased you didn't." And I went, "Oh, how come?" And he said, "I can't look at that early stuff now. I can't. I'm just embarrassed by it." And I think that, so I think it's just sort of, but obviously he's done tens of thousands of pages.
Yeah.
Between. But I think it's that, I find it very difficult to draw. So I find it difficult to advise anybody else. But sorry, I was going to show you this incorrect page. So that you can see there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
that's really cool looking. I mean, despite the fact that it's an error, it's still
yes. So so they've definitely, the blue and the yellows have been swapped, I think is the main, but you can see the difference it makes. He's brown and he's got it's a very, very odd page, and because he's exploding out of his chrysalis, at the time I wasn't sure if it was a design, it was a choice, but then when I saw the trade paperback version that came out years and years later was like, no, that's definitely wrong. And there was a page in Time Wars in the UK book that was printed with the plates swapped round, and Ultra Magnus, again, same, I think had like purple eye, not Ultra Magnus, Fortress Maximus had purple eyes, and Rodimus was like purple, and it was all very, very strange. And I had to actually, for the reprints that came out over here, I had to try and recreate how it was supposed to look, which was really, really, really hard.
Which brings to mind one grilling question I have.
Go on.
Okay, so I've got issue number 4 of Transformers Secrets and Lies, and I've also got Impactor right here.
Oh, yes.
So in his appearances in here, his helmet is miscolored.
Well, as in it's inconsistent with another panel.
Yeah.
Then that's just a mistake.
Where Ultra Magnus had asked Impactor and Roadbuster to get the wreckers together.
Yeah, if it's inconsistent between two panels of the same, then that's just a mistake on my part.
See, this is what he looked like in the prior.
Yes. He's inverted. Yeah, that's a mistake on my part. But if you like, he had his head painted in between times because he's very vain. There you go. That's my excuse for my mistake. No, that was a mistake. So, ordinarily, I'll use the last page that they were on as to make sure that it's consistent from one panel to the next. Occasionally, I can't blame anyone for it. Sometimes when the books have been running, if the artist is running late, it means I don't have very much time left to colour, and I'll sometimes get people to help me do what's called the flats, which is just the block colours that I then. But on this book, it's entirely me. So that was a mistake that I made, and I completely confess to that inconsistency.
I think that the reason that you gave is good enough to be canon, definitely.
Yeah, paint. It's all, they love paint, Transformers. I think I guess the only other thing as well is it feels almost traditional. If you look at how often the colours were wrong in the original book.
In the original cartoon to boot.
Oh yeah, the original cartoons are all over the map. But yeah, so I feel like I've done my part for continuity errors to make sure that it's. Actually, do you know what? I've thought of and again, it doesn't change the fact that I made a mistake.
We all make mistakes, John.
The actual continuity reason that would make the most sense is it's Counterpunch telling a story, so it's not always going to be consistent. So there you go. Because you can't necessarily trust everything that he's telling you.
There's a good example of that where he's talking about the Dinobots reforms, and IDW couldn't use the rights to the Savage Land, which was strictly a Marvel thing. So that was a good way to gloss over it.
Yes.
What is your opinion of Punch Counterpunch?
I love that. I actually I always felt he was a character that's underused, and like the first time I'd ever heard of him was when I watched The Rebirth, and I was like, that's really cool. I really liked both modes as well, but I was like, that's a really cool idea that he transforms into a disguise, from the other side. I did actually start writing a pitch, never went anywhere, but to IDW that was about Punch Counterpunch, and set in the IDW continuity that that involved Ultra Magnus as a bounty hunter, as he's the enforcer, wasn't he? I can't remember at the time whether it was which version of Ultra Magnus it was, whether it was pre-Minimus Ambus or not. But he was very much by the book. I've got to get this guy, but not knowing that he was deep undercover, so it became a sort of Magnus is by the book almost costs everybody their lives because Punch Counterpunch was sort of trying to maintain his cover, but discovered this huge secret, and he's basically on the run from the Autobots and Decepticons. Well, Ultra Magnus, that is, because Ultra Magnus doesn't see black, he only sees black and white.
So it would have had something to do with the Tyrus Accord.
Yeah. So it would have kind of brought in as many threads from that as possible. But because I was very intrigued by him, so when he appeared in as effectively the main sort of, the narrator in Transformers 84 is really, really happy. And I do any character that I end up working on, whether I've written him or just coloured them as a main character, I tend to get very invested in. So like Impactor was a character from the UK comics originally, but I wasn't especially connected to him, even in the Wreckers, as much as I love the Wreckers book, Nick and James did. I wasn't particularly connected to him, but only colouring him in half a dozen panels in Transformers 84. So I now have to have the toy. So I only bought that toy recently when he was when I could finally track him down for the Netflix version, I think it was. So I was very happy to get him because I now have a connection to him that I didn't have before. So there's a feel of that. And Punch Counter Punch, I loved him anyway, but whenever I was colouring Transformers 84, I had him on my desk as my little companion for the series. So there's the same like Wingspan and Pounce and Fastlane, Cloud Ray, all those guys who I didn't necessarily have much of a connection to. Yeah. But as soon as I'd done anything with them, I was like, right, I need to have them. So they become part of
I've also got the Decepticon clones around here somewhere. But yeah, the part in the Rebirth where Peter Cullen goes,
Fastlane, Cloudbreaker, I want you to search the planet until you find the key. Roger, Dodger, Optimus Prime. Roger, Dodger, Optimus Prime. Roll out.
Again, all of those characters, I'd never seen the toys. I don't know if they ever came out over here, but it was like there were just so many new people that popped up. I was like, these are all great. Where do all these come from?
Brings to mind another question. You had Transformers Generation 2 in
yes,
didn't you?
Yeah.
That's why Sideswipe Generation 2 is one of my all-time favorites.
I was never Generation 2, because over here Generation 2, unless you live near a comic shop, the US comics were quite hard to get. So the UK, they released I think like 4 or 5 issues of Generation 2, but they had to rewrite the first 2 issues or something because they had to remove the G.I. Joe crossover in it. It was all very odd.
It doesn't make sense because Action Force appeared in the original run.
Well, I think it was because Fleetway Comics, or I think took it on. I assume they didn't have the rights to G.I. Joe, so they just had Transformers. So they had to basically create a new beginning.
Is Fleetway based in Europe, or is that?
I think it was a UK company.
So then you had Sonic the Hedgehog over there too from Fleetway.
Probably, yeah. It's not a comic that I ever read, Sonic, so I don't know. But yeah. So as a result, and of course, it died by issue 5. So I never read really Generation 2 until I was again in my 20s at some point. So I don't quite have this again. I don't have the same connection. Nice. Oh yeah.
This is the BotCon one. I've also got Breakdown.
But I really like the case that's in as well. Sorry, you're a comic. I've never seen.
I got it from the Container Store.
Oh.
I don't know if you have that there, but
no. And it's obviously designed to hold a comic book.
Definitely.
Really nice.
Yeah, I used it with my other 2 ones I got. I've been selling a lot of stuff on eBay, and I wanted to indulge a little. This is the one with Bug Bite.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which I also have right here.
Yes, yeah.
And also, I love when they do not the original movie poster.
Yes.
This features DevCon.
Yeah.
And let's see. It also has Cheetor in his older form, sort of like an Alpha Trion figure.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to get through this continuity right here, but yeah, this is definitely awesome. I love the Generation 2 one the best. This is the mint in my collection.
Oh.
Peter Cullen signed it.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a huge voiceover fan. So I'd like to get your opinion on the cartoon series. Like for instance, you would have noticed a major difference between season 1.
Oh yeah.
And the infamous Five Faces of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is
Yeah.
something I wouldn't have been able to talk to Michael Bell about because, he was a key figure, but with voice actors back then, it was just a job. But I have great respect for Michael Bell and all his comrades. There was Toei Animation,
Yes.
and there was Nelson Shin's company, ACOM.
Yeah.
The worst episode they ever did was Carnage in C minor.
Yeah, no, it's oddly enough. So I've been watching some of these recently with my son, who's 4, with Transformers. So I don't know what channel it aired on over here. I remember the first ever episode airing on a particular TV show, but my only way I got to see Transformers episodes was on VHS. So either renting them from the video store or the handful that I bought. Growing up, I had pretty much the only Transformers episodes I had proper knowledge of. So I had the movie, I had The Key to Vector Sigma and War Dawn, I had Grimlock's New Brain. Basically, I had probably about 10 or 12 episodes. Call of the Primitives is one, obviously, which is just looks like nothing else.
I just really hate their explanation for Unicron. There's no there's no way that one little primate could have.
No.
He would have done probably what the Quintessons did. He would have claimed credit when actually it was Quintus Prime who was one of the original 13 who gave rise to the Quintessons.
Again, for me, because I was very much my primary Transformers exposure was the comics. So the comics came to me every week or every 2 weeks here in the UK. So that was my world building. That was my mythology. That was, and I think I've said this before, but it's one of the reasons that I could always imagine Transformers as being genderless was because I didn't have the voice actors' voices when I first read the comics. And obviously, I cannot imagine anyone other than Peter Cullen when I see G1 Optimus Prime and those sorts of things. But
all respect to Gary Chalk also, but he is more of an Optimus Primal to me than Peter Cullen.
Yeah.
And also David Kay, who was the Predacon Megatron, he was also Optimus in Transformers Animated.
Which is very strange to me, but yes.
It's interesting, though, because in that show, they brought back Judd Nelson as Hawk, who is, like I said, one of my all-time favorites. I also love Shattered Glass so much. Decepticon Rodimus Unicronus into a Autobot to look like his Shattered Glass counterpart.
Nice, I like the face on that one.
Yeah. You said you like Star Trek. What's your opinion on Leonard Nimoy?
I love Leonard Nimoy generally. So I was at a convention he was at, and I was probably about 3 meters away from him.
Man.
And I chickened out to actually go over and say hello, and I regret that massively. But he seemed to be in a big queue of people, sort of, and he just seemed very lovely and very generous with his time and everything. So, but yeah, no, I really like. He's one of the, lots of celebrity deaths. A lot of people get very emotional about, and
Casey Kasem. I think they both died in the same year.
Did they? But Leonard Nimoy is one of the ones where I did actually feel it made me like sadder than like it's always sad, but that one for some reason it did just move a bit. And I think loving Star Trek 2, in particular, the first. And I remember the day that I found out he passed away. I changed my status picture to his empty chair. So in Wrath of Khan, when I can't remember his Bones or Scott, he says you need to get down here, and Kirk looks to his right and sees the empty chair, cuts to the empty chair, and you at that point you've got the sinking feeling that he already knows this is bad, and for some reason, because that